Welcome to Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto, the podcast dedicated to focusing on the truth that is always evolving within us and around us, where we explore the potentiality of truth as a highly esteemed value at a time in history when most people have more on their plates than any one human should. If you're new to me, full expression is my jam. Some words people have used to describe me range from speaker, trainer, coach, healer, writer, spiritual advisor, teacher, podcaster, and someone even called me their soul Sherpa once. I'm less concerned with titles or labels and more interested in results, change, and creating a world we want to, can, and are proud to live in. A kinder, gentler, more curious, collaborative, reverent world where people respect each other's backgrounds, experiences, and truths. They trust in themselves, in life, and recognize that we need each other. And they know how to cultivate healthy relationships to true power, not the very unhealthy kind of power our current culture is predicated upon. Speaking of our culture, there's a lot of noise and ignorance in our current culture, and this show aims to cut through that by exploring the truths of a diverse range of incredible voices. From authors, artists, creatives, and educators to activists, speakers, and those in various scientific and esoteric fields, our guests hail from cultures and countries all over the world. We post a new interview every Monday, and if you want to keep up with the show notes and quotes from our guests, you can follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth D'Alto. You can expect a wide range of topics when you tune into this show. Everything from health, communication, money, success, parenting, desire, sex, love, and spirituality, to making pivots and transitions in life, and topics related to psychology, storytelling, gender and race issues, emotional intelligence, activism, advocacy, and much more. A few disclaimers. No episode of the show is meant for everyone, and every episode is meant for whoever needs it on the right day at the right time. Not all guest views will reflect my own, and that's intentional. We don't learn, grow, heal, or improve by staying in our comfortable bubbles with all of our people who look, think, or live exactly how we do. If you love what you hear and find it useful and inspiring, the best way to show your appreciation is to share the episode, subscribe to the show, and leave us a rating and review wherever you listen in from. Thank you so much for being here with me. Here we go. This is episode number 251 of Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto, and this is both an exciting and an esoteric one. Chetan Parkyn is with us. He's the author of Human Design: Discover the Person You Were Born to Be. Human Design is a system that helps you engage with your life in present tense. It helps you understand how you're best built to make decisions, how you should use your energy, and ultimately how to get the most out of life. I love Human Design. I have been working with this system for the last couple of years now, both in my own life, personally, in my relationships with my clients. This is something that has helped so many people that I've introduced it to, again, to just relate to themselves, to understand how they function, how they operate, and as well, to have so much more compassion for others every single time we realize how differently and how uniquely we are all built. So Chetan is a world-renowned expert on the system. He's read for thousands of people over the last few decades, published 3 books about it, and he was generous enough to break it all down for us in this episode. This week, if you're listening in real time on April 26th, I'm kicking off our new Facebook Live series, #TruthTalk, where we get together on my Facebook page over at facebook.com/Elizabeth D'Alto to basically just geek out on this week's interview. What you're getting out of it, what insights you might have had, what came up for you, what you want to share, who you shared it with, maybe what you're talking about with your friends after listening, any questions that you might have, if I'm able to answer them. I can't promise that because obviously I can't speak on behalf of our guests, but it's really just a way for us to get together, hang out, spend some time talking about the show, and see what comes up. So head on over to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Elizabeth D'Alto. And this week specifically, I'd love to know, if you do look up your human design, what is your type and your profile and your authority? So with that all said, let's dive into today's interview. Everyone listening knows that I geek out so much on personality typologies. If you've been listening to the podcast for any length of time, you've heard me mention Human Design. And so I'm excited to have Chetan with us, who he wouldn't tell me how to pronounce his name. So that may or may not be right, and he apparently doesn't care. But he wrote the book that I reference all the time. So this is going to be great. How are you?
I'm in great shape. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Do you not like that I called it a typology?
Whatever you like. Whatever helps people reference, who they are and what they're doing here.
Yeah. So we have one question I ask everyone, and then we can jump into all the human design stuff. But what is a truth that's having a big impact on your life right now?
I'd have to say it's fake news.
Ooh.
Exactly what is fake news? And why is it seen to be relevant in these times? And what's it all about? Is it just a big denial, or is it people just covering over things? And the bottom line with it all, especially in these times, is everybody has to work out what they're doing here, what their life is all about, and what is their truth. Yeah. Regardless. We used to be able to rely on, reputable people. We used to rely on people being courteous with each other, having discussion, having debate. And that is an age that has gone past. And now everybody has to work out what's going on in their own life for themselves, like what really resonates within themselves. Yeah. So that's what I'm perceiving at the moment. We have to get over this thing of truth, faith, false truth, fake news, whatever it is, and find out our own story. That's the deal.
This is basically what this podcast is all about and why we're here. So that is a perfect answer. Not that there is a perfect or imperfect answer, but if there is a perfect one, that was pretty close. So for anyone who has never heard of human design, can you give us a basic overview of what the system is?
It's the first Aquarian system. It's a 21st century device. And long and the short of it, it is a means to find out what your life is about, how to engage with it according to your own perfect nature, and how to live in present tense. Right? Everything to date has been past and future, and we kind of muddle around between the two things. Human design actually puts you in present tense in your own life. That is its essence.
It's so amazing. I've done my Myers-Briggs, I've done my Enneagram, I've done wealth dynamics. I love these things. I feel like anything that helps me understand myself a little bit more and also others, and also remind me how differently we're all built, helps me to just have so much more focus, compassion, and clarity for anything, and really get along with others and kind of respect and accept, or let's say accept, not always respect others, but sometimes. So where did it come from? How was it developed? Because this is not based on you go online and you take a quiz. You have to enter your date of birth, your time of birth. Why do those things matter?
It's almost like, in very simplistic terms, it's what's the sunbeam you rode in on? What's the uniqueness of your presence here? And I could go on in great description of what the system is, where it came from, why it works, how it can be proven scientifically.
Yeah.
What it does, basically, from your date, time, and place of birth, it's almost like you show up somewhere in space. And we have a neighborhood. The first neighbor is the moon. Next one out is, Venus. And then there's the sun and Mercury and Mars and all these other things out there. That makes up the neighborhood. And each of these planets has a particular quality about it. So as we show up into the world here, and as we have access into the world here when we're born, there are things going on in our neighborhood that actually affect us. And as I say, we all have a uniqueness. We all arrive in a unique place, in a unique time. Even if somebody's born seconds after you, they're still not quite in the same area as you are. So there are no two grains of sand in this whole universe that are the same. There are no people here living the same life. And that is the beautiful thing about human design, because it indicates your uniqueness.
I appreciate this. And I know that some people listening would actually love the scientific piece. Because even, astrology is similar. People are like, why does it matter? This is so subjective or whatever. So why does that matter? How is it scientifically proven?
All right. Human design was downloaded in 1987. And I use the word downloaded. It wasn't channeled. It was enforced. This person was this fellow called Robert Allen Krakauer, who later called himself Ra, was given this system in its totality. He had no idea what he'd been given. No instruction book, whatever. And yet, when he was a very intelligent man, he started piecing bits and pieces together, and he started inquiring of other people, what was it that he'd been given. And the information that he'd been given, he said, was based on the understanding of this physics concept of a minute particle called a neutrino. So for anyone that's done physics in school, probably you've heard about atoms and molecules and electrons and protons and quarks and all these different things. At the time human design came in 1987, neutrinos were just a theory. People had done, don't ask me how they did this, but they had done a calculation working from this concept of the Big Bang. Where had all the matter gone? And they kind of looked all over the universe, they did these calculations, and they came up about 70% short. There was 70% of the matter missing somehow or other. So they put forward this theory of these things called neutrinos. And there's so many of these neutrinos that they would make up the missing mass. So what has come about, and what was actually proven scientifically in 1997, both in Japan and in Canada at the same time, was that these neutrinos do actually exist. They're these tiny little particles. They move faster than the speed of light. They have a tiny little bit of mass, and they pass through everything. So where do they come from? They are constantly emitted from stars. So around us in the universe, we have all these different stars, zillions of stars. If you stand in the middle of the Sahara Desert, you will see the sky at night is white. It's not black, like it is in other parts of the world. There are so many stars. They're all emitting neutrinos, and each star has its own quality of neutrino. So these neutrinos fly in the universe in all directions, so many of them, and they pass through everything. So, for example, a star somewhere out in our neighborhood, distant neighborhood, is emitting these neutrinos. It comes into our solar system. It then passes through one of these planets in our neighborhood, supposing Venus. Venus has a very particular vibration to her. And then the next thing, it comes flying through us. So the quality of that star's information, combined with the Venus information, then gets infused in what we see as our genetic makeup. So human design, yes, it's very different than astrology. In astrology, we look at 12 constellations in the sky around us. We divide the sky into 12. In human design, we divide the sky into 64. The 64 relates to a couple of things. First, to the hexagrams in the I Ching, the Chinese Book of Changes. So we have these hexagrams lined up in the sky all around us, relating to the energies of the particular star fields. The 64 also relates to the human genetic code. So star field, planet, genetic code. So scientifically, yes, you can talk your way in and see exactly how this all comes together.
It's so cool. So what I like about the system is that it's very complex and layered. So there is profile, type, emotional authority. Those are kind of like the big rocks, if you will, the three main aspects, yeah?
Type, authority, and profile, yes.
So I'd love to really get into those. We don't have to go too deep into the other stuff because I feel like that's where it gets a little complicated. But I'd love to start with the authority. I have found that for me to be most useful and in my work with my clients because there's a lot of talk about using your gut and connecting to your intuition. But I feel like this authority piece was something I was really missing. For many years, I was operating more from my impulse than my intuition because I have emotional authority. And so I didn't realize that initial yes or no isn't necessarily the correct information for me. I had to sleep on things. Learning that was monumental in my life. I had a lot of messes to clean up, but it was very good to learn.
Yeah, that is a beautiful thing about human design. I think if you study any kind of spiritual background, anyone that's teaching about spirituality, they'll say the very first thing you have to do is get out of your head.
Yeah.
The head is beautiful. It's split in many parts. It got this way, that way, the other way. It's a critical device. It's looking out for us in some way or other, but it's always qualifying our environment, our neighborhood. In human design, there are 6 of these different authorities. They're very specific. And you talked about having an emotional authority. And basically that means within your human design chart, there is this emotion center that we can see is activated 24 hours a day. And the thing about emotions, as all of us will know, emotions go up and everything's wonderful. And then the emotions go down and everything's not so great. But hang on, they're going back up again. Oh no, they're going down again. So how on earth do we find clarity if we're just, oh, well, I'm only going to make any kind of decision in my life when I'm feeling up and excited about things? Forgetting all the time that the wave goes down, and actually, you know, when I actually get involved in what I agreed to do, I might not be in the mood for it anymore.
Yep, story of my life.
Yeah. And so, you know, we're talking here, the emotion center in the human body is the solar plexus center. And that's around the belly button. So nothing up here, nothing to do up here. This is not about qualifying anything in life. Making decisions from the solar plexus. So how many people do you know that are always in touch with their solar plexus, with their feelings? Yeah, very few people.
Yeah.
So how do you get in touch with your solar plexus and your feelings? The easiest way I found is through breathing. And not just breathing up here somewhere, breathing all the way down into the belly. Literally following the energy down. I mean, Buddha had this down, you know, years ago with Vipassana meditation, watching your breath. So in human design, I always say to people, when you have an emotional authority, be in touch with your feelings. And if you're not in touch with your feelings and you're being approached by something and you need to make a decision, first thing is take a deep breath. Energize that part of your body and see what happens. The first thing that'll come out will be a sigh, and that'll be releasing energy. And all of a sudden you'll start finding, okay, now I can get in here. Now I can get into my center of gravity. I say that human design brings people into present tense. The more you're watching your breathing, the more you're aware of that state, the more you have that possibility to actually be riding these emotional waves all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, in life, there are certain times in your life where you've considered a situation, you've been offered something, and you make a resolution, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm crystal clear, this is what's going to happen, and you do it. And it turns out it's a lot of fun, and it works beautifully, and everyone's very happy with it. And you can also remember those times when you make a decision on something, perhaps an impulsive one, and you dive headfirst into something, and it's just a shambles. You fall in love with the wrong person, you buy the wrong car, you know, live in the wrong house, and there are consequences.
Yeah.
So what I say to people when I'm talking to them about this emotional authority, and we're talking at least 50% of the world's population, we're talking about nearly 90% of couples when they get together, that their couples will have emotional authority. So what I say to people is, look, making a decision, if you're in touch with your wave, if you're in touch with your feelings as things come to you, you can be absolutely spot on. You can be impulsive because you're already feeling clearly about things. If you can't get that, then consider the situation that's confronting you and see if you can tie it in with one of those situations in your life where you made a decision and it was absolutely right for you. Mm. If you can find the parallel with that part of a wave way back when, if you can find the parallel, that same sensation that you had, I'm on this thing, it's right for me, then it'll work out beautifully for you.
It's cool. So I like that that's body-based. So can you run us through, again, just briefly, what are the other kinds of authority?
Another one is what we call sacral authority. This is for people that have the sacral center defined in their chart. This is generators and manifesting generators who do not have a defined emotion center. And basically, they have what we call a gut response. Nothing to do with the head, coming out of the lower belly. And the gut response is either going to say, yes, I have an interest in this, or not now. It's not a blanket no. It's not now. Right movie, wrong time. Come back later. Show me again another time. And if a generator with this sacral authority pays attention to their gut response, and they rise on things, something comes and they get this energy that rises, you caught my attention, I have an energy for this, then there's a possibility of getting involved in it. For those that don't have the sacral colored in, don't have the emotions colored in, there is then splenic authority. These are people that live on their wits. They're instinctive, they're intuitive, they just get it like that. They're the quickest people in the room. And then they've got to see, well, hang on, probably everyone else needs a little bit of patience, you know, let them catch up a bit. But they get things so fast, they get an intuition and that's it.
Yeah.
There are people that also have what we call willful authority. And in human design terms, this is basically people that they're manifestors by design. And what we say to a willful manifestor is what you want is what needs to happen. That is their decision process. What they want is what needs to happen. And everyone says, isn't that a bit selfish? And it may sound like that. But if they're really tuning into their heart and what's really valuable to them, they will know that this is what needs to happen. They need to manifest from that place in themselves.
So it's a real, core, heartfelt, soul level want. It's not just these whims.
Not whims. Right. Whims, you waved up in the air, meaning, it's much more up here. Yeah. I'm talking really about, what has value, what has substance for you.
Cool.
And I've met some and read for many willful manifestors over the years. And when they get it, wow. Not only do they change their own life, they change the whole community around them.
That's cool. So are there only those 4?
One more to look at is what we call self-authority. And these are people, they're projectors by design. They have a connection between the self-center and the throat. And very personal, very quiet. There's all this emotion, there's all this sacral energy, there's all these intuitive people, there's all these willful people around them all the time. And they have this very still, small voice inside themselves that just knows whether to commit to something or someone or not. The best description I give for this, Elizabeth, is for those people that have this self-authority, is consider that they have a little flower in the middle of their chest here somewhere, like a little bud. And the bud is just waiting for the right circumstances. It will know when to open up. But all the chaos going on around them, everybody doing their thing, and every now and again something comes along for them and just the little flower opens up. They get this sensation of release and opening. There are very famous people like this. Mick Jagger has this. Barbara Streisand has this. You'll know they're very different in their presentation. But they have to have this sensation that something is really calling to me here. And then we have people that have what we call outer authority. Well, these are people that have mental definition, or people that we call reflectors in design. And they have a very, very particular process of watching everything that goes on around them, doing a lot of research and background and checks on things, and being very, very patient. But I tell you, if you ever want to find out what's really going on, you need to have one of these people in your life and ask them every now and again, because they will get to the bottom of things.
I have a friend like that. I can't believe the amount of time he takes to arrive at things sometimes. But that's another, again, I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. I used to be so impatient with people. And the more human design has helped me with this, Myers-Briggs has helped me with this, the more I just get that we're all built so differently. I can't be impatient with someone because I don't want someone encroaching on or trying to force or push my process. So I certainly don't want to do that to other people.
Yeah, well, that's a very good point. I've often said about human design, it's the first international language. When you pick up on your type and authority and your profile and stuff, and you start knowing those of people around you, it doesn't matter what anyone says. There's a whole exchange of energy, and there's a great deal more respect. Yeah.
So if you had to, I don't think I actually did this before we talked about the types of authority, how would you define what the authority is?
It's your decision-making process.
So that's the decision-making process. And then what is the type?
Type is how you use your energy.
Okay.
All of us have energy, and all of us have energy in different ways. And what we found in human design, there are these 5 distinctly different types. What we would all consider, we're here, can't we just manifest in our life? And in actual fact, in human, yes, we can, of course we can, but it's all about the circumstances that we have around us. Those people that we call manifestors in design, there's about 10 or 11% of them. I would describe a manifestor as more of somebody that catalyzes activity. Anyone on the call that is a manifestor will know this. They walk into a room and there's no way everyone in the room is not going to feel affected by their walking in that room. They just change the energy. It's a kind of can-do, or things can move now, energy. So they've got to be very particular where they put themselves, who they commit to, and what they commit to. Because everybody is affected by their presence. And it very often happens with manifestors that they get shut down at an early age. because they have this ability to do stuff. They don't feel like there's any kind of blockage in their life until somebody actually stands in front of them and blocks them deliberately. And that's an awful thing for a manifestor, because then they start using their elbows or they give up.
I'm just feeling the people on the call or the people listening to the show who are hearing that going, oh my God, that's me. That's what happened. Yeah. I know, I'm sure there's several. So those are the manifestors. And then what else is there?
The next type we would look at is the generator. And generator are those people who have a defined sacral center. They may have defined emotion as well, in which case they have to be in touch with their feelings as well. But these are people that have a gut response. And it's literally a response from the lower belly that either rises energy, that says, yes, I have an interest in this, or the energy shuts down or nothing happens, where it's a not now. And once a generator understands this about themselves, how to use this energy, that it's a gut response rather than anything else in their life, everything in their life changes. It's a magical process for them, really magical process. I've seen people completely transform their lives just paying attention to a gut response. Yeah.
I've helped some clients do this, and I think one of the reasons, this is just my opinion, but I'd love to hear yours, because obviously you've deeply read so many people, I'm sure, over the years. It's so counterculture. It's not how we're taught, and it's not how we're trained. We're taught, go, 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 now, 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 make the decision, yesterday is better. And so I find these people need to really honor and respect that process and have the patience in knowing that, like, when that gut response arises, it's going to be correct, so it's worth the wait.
Yeah, it is absolutely worth the wait. But it takes a little detraining, as you say. You know, in the Western world anyhow, everyone gets shoveled off to school. We get told about everybody else. We get told to think things through. We get given all these mental exercises. And we never, ever get any encouragement to be ourselves. Mm. And I've come across quite a number of homeschooled children now, and parents that are wise to human design, and I have to say they're raising very, very different children.
Yeah.
You know, ones that are actually living in nature with themselves, and it's a beautiful thing to see. But I agree with you, there is a big deconditioning process that has to happen for all of us that have just been told to try and think our way through lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had manifestor, generator.
Then the next type I'd look at is the projector. Projector, about 20% of the world's population. I am a projector by design. Very different than manifestors, generators, or manifesting generators that we'll talk about in a moment. Projectors are here more than anyone else. They have to know their design. Generators, they can just respond. Manifestors, they have to be clear what's worth doing, what's worth catalyzing. A projector has to work out for themselves, what is it that they're putting out into the world? What are they projecting out? What is their design that is being echoed out into the world that other people are picking up on? Because in the end, the projector is going to be a guide for people using their energy in the world. But the only way they can get in that place of giving guidance is by having some kind of recognition. And if they don't know what it is about themselves that's being recognized, they won't necessarily know who and what to connect with.
I have a lot of projector friends and have had a lot of projector friends in my life who were coaches. Mm-hmm. And I've seen this struggle. It's so intense for people when they don't know who they are or what they're offering, but they know they want to offer something. And I'm a manifesting generator, so different from that type.
They're very different. So one more thing to say about projectors is that they put out this aura, they put out this vibe of what their design is, both the bits that are colored in, both the bits that are not colored in. They just put that out. They project it out. And it's not like the universe is deaf to this projection. You know, essentially, people are going to get drawn to it one way or another. And so we say generally to projectors, look, just wait until you get an invitation from somebody. Just be inactive. You know, sit tight, sit on your thumbs, don't do anything. But that's only half the process. We projectors were projecting things out, and we've got to realize that coming down the stream from one direction or another are people that are actually drawn to this projection. Yeah. And we have to be alert to see, you know, maybe this perfect presence comes past us, and because we're sitting on our thumbs, you know, we don't make any interaction there. But if we're really clear of our design and we get the sensation of who it is that's coming in our life, we can also say, hey, why don't we have some kind of connection here?
Yeah.
That's a big misunderstanding for projectors that they can get over.
And I think this is really important too, because again, so counterculture. When people are taught to like hustle, get after it, go after it, work for your dreams, you know, stronger, faster, better. And, you know, the projectors, there is that magical thing. And and it's cool too. So I had, my former partner was a projector. And I remember being like, this dude is so lazy. He doesn't do anything. And then we learned he wasn't supposed to be doing anything. And so, again, so different. Brings the compassion into the fold. But also, too, I feel there's this external pressure by our culture for them to do and act. And it's just not their design.
Well, if they do an act, they get involved with things that really don't work for them.
Right.
That kind of makes them feel very rejected. But yeah, projectors, when they get into a stream of something that really works for them, it can carry them their whole life.
Yeah, I have a good friend, actually, Akira Chan, who was on the podcast with my friend Renee. They're business partners, and they produce beautiful videos, documentaries. They work on amazing stuff. And Akira is working, it feels like 24/7, because work is coming to them constantly. They're inundated with requests and wait lists and stuff. So that works for him. And he's not one of those projectors that's sitting around like, what do I do? Because it's like, the channel is open, the path is clear, the work is lined up. Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So then we could look about manifesting generators. And for a lot of people, they say, oh, well, no, they're just generators. And they're not at all. They're manifesting generators, totally different. They have the same thing, that they have a defined sacral center. They need to get that gut response in the first place. But the gut response is conditional. If it's saying yes, it's okay, you got my attention here. It's not that, hey, I'm just going to jump in here. Unless they're absolutely crystal clear, they're in present tense, and they know the sensation of what it is that's being offered to them.
This has been my fatal flaw, by the way.
What to do. So I always say about a manifesting generator, the first thing is to register. You're getting a not now. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
Let it go. You know, might be for somebody else. But if you're getting this yes, you're getting this aha, you're getting this rising of energy inside yourself. Okay, let's have a look at this thing. What have we got? And you make a first footstep towards whatever it is that's been offered. And you check it out. You know, does this sit well with me? Does this work for me? If you're emotional like you are, how does this feel for me? I'm only in first gear now. I'm not in overdrive yet. I'm just getting the sensation. And okay, feels good. Let's pop it in second gear. Let's build up a little momentum here. Let's go a little further. Let's explore a little bit more. And so they go through this whole process of quietly getting more and more involved in something and just seeing, is that yes I got still resonating inside me? Does it still fit? And what I've found with manifesting generators is they come to a moment of truth. They literally come to that moment where it's either I'm going to go and sit back down again, or I'm going to pop this thing in overdrive and I'm off and running. And what happens when they pop it into overdrive, you'll find you become a manifester. Mm-hmm. And the difference for you is you've already cleared the obstructions out of the way. You don't have to be concerned about being blocked anymore. You're good to go. And you've got all that sacral energy behind you. So probably the most effective of all people in the world are the manifesting generators, once they get their clarity.
Once they get their clarity. It's what, you know, I also, another reason why I love the human design, which goes to something I said earlier too, is I know humans are so inclined to compare themselves to others. So I've had a lot of clients who want to create businesses similar to mine and stuff like that. And I love looking up the human design to go, cool, I'm a manifesting generator. If you're not, you cannot compare your process to my process, your output to my output, because it's just going to be very different, and it's futile depending on what their type might be. And my way is not correct for anyone but me.
Well, as I say, we're all unique anyhow, so
yeah,
you're bound to have your very own flavor around whatever you do.
Yeah. And
I mean, I found this from the get-go as well. So many people have have copied what we've been doing with human design, and a lot of it falls short, honestly. Trying to copy somebody else's process or way of doing things, or trying to copy somebody else's process. It's, it doesn't make any sense. The whole world is available. There's so many different things available here.
Yeah.
And we all have our unique expression.
And so the last type is Reflector, yeah?
The last one we would look at is Reflector. And these are completely different designs. In the human design chart, there is no color in any of the centers. There's no fixity in their design. And I always say to people, you have to have a reflector in your life, somewhere or other. You need to have a reflector, literally, so they can reflect you back to yourself, if they'll put up with you. Because you see, they are pure empaths. With nothing fixed in their design, they're just buffeted around by all the energies around them. I remember reading for this lady a while ago. She worked for the power company, and she had an office, and she was sending people out for their work and stuff. She was organizing that. She would find outside her office door was a line of people waiting to get in for personal consultations on their life. She couldn't believe it. Like, why has everyone come to me to ask me all this stuff? And it's because basically this was one person that could give them a pure reflection in their life. Mm-hmm. She had to quit. It was too much. So reflectors really have to watch out for themselves. They have to be very particular about their space. They have to have open space. They have to be out of other people's auras. It's hopeless for them to live in a packed household or an apartment building. Even staying in hotels from time to time, they have to be very particular which room they get, because they're in everybody else's aura. They're just bombarded by everybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
And once they find their purity, and once they find their space and their clarity, they're the most extraordinary people, in that they just give you a pure reflection of intelligence.
So, and this is true. My friend who is a reflector, he's the person I'll reach out to when I just need that, like, sometimes that final check-in, or just if there really is something that I personally can't get clear on, and he just shoots me straight. He knows me quite well. He'll just shoot me straight. Yeah. And I'm like, great, I can trust that. So,
it is absolutely mind-blowing to get that level of clarity.
Yeah.
It stops you completely. It's like, where was I going with this?
Yeah. So amazing. And so those are the types. That's how we use our energy. And then what are the profiles?
Well, there's 12 of these profiles, and they're each distinct from each other. There are 6 of them that are fairly common. There are 6 of them that are much rarer. There are certain people that are born in these rare ones. And when I say rare, it's like somewhere between a 2 and a 3 hour space in time that they could have one of these rare profiles. For the rest of people, it's more like, 12, 14 hours of a day that they can have a profile. So what does the profile do? Some of them are what we call personal profiles, some are what we call interpersonal profiles, and the rarely rare ones are what we call the fixed profiles. So most people have a personal profile, which basically means they're on a personal agenda in this lifetime. And it's not that they can't see the effect they have on other people, but they don't necessarily know the ramifications. So, for instance, the President of America at the moment is a 1-3 profile. And you'd have to see that pretty much everything that happens around him is all about him. People say, why doesn't he have any empathy or any concern for anybody else or anything? And that is not a lifestyle that has been embraced by him or even cultured at all. That, it's just, that's how it is. And I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. That's just how it's going to work for him.
Yeah.
Hillary is exactly the same. She has that same 1-3 profile. It's not a good or a bad thing. But somebody with that profile, they'll go very deeply into certain things. And if they have any level of dissatisfaction with it, they'll get rid of it. So we might say short attention span, or, they're just here to try everything on a personal level. On the other end of the spectrum, there are people that have what we call a 6-2 profile.
That's me.
These are people that are born experts. I say to people with a 6-2 profile, you're the baby that comes into this world. And as you're lying on your back in your crib, you're looking up at the people looking down at you. And you're kind of asking, you sure you guys know what you're doing?
It's very funny because, yeah. My whole life, my parents are like, "Oh, you've been like 50 since you were 3."
There you are. Yeah, and the difficulty for a 6'2" is you get exposed to other people's concerns at a very early age. You have to be wise before you're actually, old enough to be dealing with this stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody comes to cry on your shoulder or quiz to you why things are all messed up in their world. So mostly people with a 6'2", by the time they're 17, they've tried everything. And they find there's not that many people that can keep up with them anymore. So, there's a whole range of these different profiles. The ones that have the 4-1 profiles, what we call the fixed fate profiles, there are 64 of these, as there are 64 allocations of star fields around us. I always remark on a 4-1 profile, it's almost like they're one of the 64 pillars of the temple of being human, because they actually hold that frequency of that particular genetic part of our makeup. They hold that very particular flavor for humanity. And they have to hold that for their whole lifetime. They can't sway away from it. They can't be moved away from it.
Yeah. So I know with other personality types or systems, people ask the nature versus nurture question. So if I'm born a manifesting generator with emotional authority, 6'2" profile, I'm always going to be manifesting generator, emotional authority, 6'2" profile, yeah?
That is right. And more power to you.
And as we grow, as we change, as we learn about ourselves, depending on what people's spiritual practices are or their education or whatever, how does that... Are any of these things malleable, is my question? I mean, everyone will express differently. You've already talked about the uniqueness, but...
Yeah, of course. The malleability is in the frequency. You can live a very, very low-level, low-frequency lifetime. Mm. Shuffle along cradle to the grave. You can do the whole trip. Or you can get interested in life, and you can get interested in how you interact with the world, and you can raise your frequency.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're stuck in the dungeon somewhere, But I know manifesting generators that are. They just refuse to do any kind of growth at all. But there are those, fortunately, who see there's the possibility of everything here. I always come down to the basic equation here. Nobody knows what life is.
Yeah.
I don't care who you ask. You can read any book about it. Nobody knows. There's all kinds of descriptions. You try this, do that, this happens. But nobody knows. This is our unique, fantastic, amazing experience. Yeah. Now, design will give you a very clue how to get the best out of that experience, how to raise your frequency, how to be a conscious presence here. Yeah.
How did you get into it? Where did you find it? What made you want this to be what you do?
I was a mechanical engineer. That was my training. And I used to travel all over the world. I had a knack for fixing stuff. And there came a point in time in my life where my life was not making sense anymore. I was 27 years old. I was in Kenya at the time. And I just had this sensation, I need to find out what's going on here. Mm. And I flew to India, where I'd been before, and I had a reading with this man in what is now Mumbai. He's a man that was called Shadow Reader. And I won't go into the details of how he did his process, but he was working with a very, very old system. And he basically told me everything about myself. Everything, my parents' names, what I'd grown up to do, what my schooling had been like, what I'd been doing last week, what I was doing today, what I was going to be doing next week. He told me the whole story. And it was mind-blowing. I was 27 years old, at the end of my tether, but he was just showing me how everything connected together. And at the end of the reading, he just turns to me and says, I want you to come and work with me, because you know how to do this. I sat with that for about 30 seconds, what am I going to have to do here? And I said, no, I can't possibly do that. And he just burst out laughing. He thought that was really funny, because he could see exactly which way my life was going, and I couldn't. He knew where it was going. And he said, well, it doesn't matter. You're going to do this work anyhow. So my suggestion is you start practicing with a system, learn a few systems of how to tell people about themselves, because you've got that gift. Because there's a system that's going to come into your life. You're going to write books about it. That was the first one. And you're going to introduce it all over the world. And it's going to change people's lives forever. This was 1979. Human design didn't come in until 1987. Came into my life in 1993. In the meantime, I've been learning how to read hands, cards, faces, everything. Tea leaves, coffee grinds, everything.
Cool.
I explored the whole gamut of esoteric stuff. And when human design showed up, I was sent a chart, and I looked at the chart, and I knew right away this was human design. This is what I was going to be working with. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And as you say, yes, I've read for about 10,000 people now, and I've taught goodness knows how many people. The books are all over the world. It's been quite a trip.
I have a question I'm so excited to ask you specifically, especially now that you said, other than human design, you learned how to read all the other kinds of things.
Yeah.
Only within the last couple years have I been attuning myself to all the different things that I see and sense about people, and am reading about people that I didn't ever realize before that that's what I was doing. Yeah. I don't know if I shared this on the podcast before, but I was at a dinner party in May of 2015, and I was talking to the host. We're sitting at a table. There were like 12 people, and he says to me, "Do people ever feel like you're invading their privacy?" And I said, "What do you mean?" I had no idea what he meant. And he said, "I'm watching you track everything that's happening at this table, and you're actually responding to things that I haven't said out loud to you." Mm. And I went, "Oh." and that really has stuck with me. And I was like, I get it. I understand. That's why I do the work I do with clients and why it works well. People are always saying to me, "How did you know that?" I'm like, "I don't know, but if it's accurate, let's just go with it." But I have, at times, even with things like human design, with a certain reading body language, facial expressions, stuff like that, I have chosen not to go deeper with those studies because I don't know how do you function in the world when you could read everything about people? How do you just be with people when you are seeing everything on their face, in their energy, and their stuff?
You have to be able to turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be able to turn it off. And that's what I do. I turn it off. So what I will say at the moment is we are being bombarded by insight at the moment. And I say that because the planet Pluto, which kind of shuffles around us in 250 years, the last time it was in the sky where it is now, the American Revolution was forming. Mm. And, people were throwing tea in the harbor in Boston. It was the beginning of a huge change. And it was a fighting change. Now it's a consciousness revolution. And Pluto is now in the wheel. It's sitting in gateway number 61. And it's going to be there until mid-June. It's going to drop out again, and it'll go back in again January of next year, and it'll stay there for a couple of years. The significance of Pluto, anyhow, it's a transformational planet. And maybe it's a microplanet, but it's transformational in nature. The way I describe it, it goes into the garden, it rips everything out by the roots. It throws away the weeds, it throws away things that don't have any substance, and it replants those things that actually have substance and value. So death and rebirth. And the 61 is the gateway of inner truth. So you asked me right at the beginning, what's the truth that I pick up at the moment, and it's fake news. Everybody has to see through fake news. And for the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be bombarded by the opening of these gifts and abilities that we have to be able to see through the BS. Yeah. And, we're all going to be bombarded with this. And I will say it's going to affect some people in kind of chaotic ways because they won't know what's going on for them. But all of us, we're all psychic, we're all clairvoyant, we're all clairaudient, we've all got this stuff. And that is what is going to be going on for these next few years. And the easiest way in which people are going to get this, is going to be the kids. It's going to be the indigos and the millennials, the younger ones, because they're less conditioned than we are.
Right.
They're going to be able to see this stuff has relevance. They're going to be able to use this. We are in for a massive shift in consciousness in these years. And the great thing is, how do we control the dinosaurs? The ones that are kind of the ones that are trying to hold on to some rotten ideal. You know, how do we get rid of the machine guns out of people's houses? You know, it'll all happen, but we got to see that we're being given this opportunity to expand our senses and our consciousness out of all proportion. It's massive.
It really is. And I'm smiling. I know a lot of people are listening, they're not watching, but I'm smiling because it's so funny how everything just like lines up and clicks into place, because essentially the work that I've been doing and developing since 2013 has been to get people to tap into their senses, to be able to navigate how overwhelming and complex life is in the 21st century.
Yes, it is. It's complex if we overthink it.
Yes. Good distinction.
If we trust that life is always encouraging, the foundational law of this universe, life begets more life. That's it. It's not a negative thing. And the difficulty is that we're dealing with is most of the religions and the belief systems on this planet are life negative.
Oh.
It'll all be better when you're dead. Yeah? Instead of, hang on a minute, you're here, the sun might not be out, but it's still a beautiful day.
Yeah. So you discovered human design. You started it. I'm so curious. And you've been doing readings ever since the books came. I'd love to know a little bit more about your trajectory. Again, for anyone listening too, that it might be helpful to go, okay, this is what it looks like when someone starts to open up to their gifts and use them and embrace this, and maybe not have it be out of control and chaotic, but something focused and useful and helpful.
Supposing you were a concert pianist and you got a big concert coming up, and you go out onto the stage and the piano's there and the piano's out of tune. And you sit down there and you start playing your piece and it sounds weird. It's a little bit like that with us. We're here in this world, we're here having our performance, and if we're not in tune, the music that comes through us is a little bit weird.
It's a great metaphor.
And the more we try and copy somebody else, the weirder it all gets.
Yeah.
So whatever is needed to bring us into tune in our own life, in our own perfect frequency, that's what's needed. That's why I love human design. And so, that's what I've been doing for a long time now.
What's the difference between reading a book like your human design book and getting an actual reading?
Reading a book is wonderful. Great stories, great insights, great possibilities. Literature is an extraordinary thing. What you have to understand about literature, it is visual, which then gets put into the mind, that then the mind makes some kind of sense or some kind of logic out of it. There's a progression that happens. One's understanding about things grows at a gradual pace. With a reading, it's acoustic. It's sound and silence. It's why music is so amazing. It's why certain people speaking is so amazing. Because the sound will take you right to the edge of something, and then you'll drop. And you'll drop into a different appreciation. So I would always say to people, for goodness sake, yes, read a book, but do have a reading. And do have a reading for somebody that actually understands the noises they're making and how that is going to affect somebody. Give somebody an actual experience of themselves. So the trainings that we do for people, we put so many people through our trainings. We train practitioners. We train people from the basis of the whole thing that you're doing in giving a reading is giving somebody a direct experience of who they are. You're not reciting somebody else's words. You're not, just repeating like a parrot what you've been told about human design. You're actually tuning into what it is that person needs to hear from your particular expression. And when that happens, and I'm so happy with so many of the people we've trained over the years, the practitioners we've trained.
You were going to say projectors?
I was going to say, but yeah, we train all types.
Yeah.
And everybody has a different way. And it's wonderful to watch people coming to this place of realizing how to give somebody else an experience of who they are.
Yeah, it's really, I find this to be such a huge gift to just be able to, and you know, there's all these memes and quotes that say, you know, self-love is an act of rebellion, but like really getting to know yourself and how you operate and function is an enormous act of rebellion in a culture that wants you to like be this way, fit into this box so everyone else can stay comfortable and the people in power can stay in power.
Yeah. Well, in a sense, you know, without trying to be trite here, you're not really capable of loving somebody else until you love yourself. You know, it really is. You've got to know where you're coming from in the first place. You're going to get a very powerful reflection from somebody else. But mostly it's going to be a codependency on some level. So, yes, the first thing is know yourself, love yourself, and work out what your life is about. Then you're in a place to be able to really be constructive and creative in somebody else's life.
It's funny because I did an interview with someone last week. She's a dating expert. She does all kinds of research on relationships and stuff. And we were debating that. We were debating the actual truth behind, must you actually be able to love yourself before you can love somebody else? And one of the things that we were saying is nobody loves themselves 24/7. Would you agree with that or no?
There are certainly, I will have to say, love is the only game in town. Love is the only thing going on in this universe. We have different ways of playing it. There are different levels to appreciating love. It is possible to arrive in a state of personal bliss in oneself where one actually is in love 24 hours a day. I don't say everybody has that going on in their life, but it is a possibility.
It's so funny. So this afternoon I was rewatching. Do you know who Jason Silva is?
I don't.
I would describe him as a thought leader. He creates a lot of content, makes these beautiful videos. I haven't been much into his stuff for the last few years, and I was looking back at this video of his that was just like so poignant for me. I think it first came out in 2013. It's called Existential Bummer, and he's talking about impermanence. And he's talking about how even when you're in love, there's this underlying melancholy because you know it's not going to last forever, either because it's going to wear off or the person's going to go away, leave you or die, or you're going to die. And he talks about this conversation between Freud and the poet Rilke as they're walking through a field, and like Rilke is getting sad and Freud's like, what's going on? And he's like, all of this is going to be not here at some point. And so this interesting, hearing you say love is the only game in town, I'm curious about your opinion about that as well. Like the melancholy, like the inevitable impermanence that comes with the love.
So what exactly is wrong with melancholy?
That's the thing. It's not wrong. It's. I guess what he's saying is it's part of the experience.
Yes.
It's like your heart's expanding and opening and loving and breaking at the same time.
Yes, of course. Of course. I mean, no tree is going to grow if the seed doesn't crack.
It's such a paradox, though, right? Because I think we are sold these fairy tales that we think that there is a happily ever after.
Well, Hollywood's been playing this game forever.
Yeah.
It's it's perfect in a way. It's a perfect story, but life is a mystery. And the more we can recognize that and engage with it on that level, and literally accept it. The universe is on our side. We came here with a very particular soul purpose. We made a soul agreement to have this lifetime, to have this experience. You've got to understand about planet Earth, you know, there's a couple of things here that don't exist in other realms. You know, we're in 3D. We have this kind of solid stuff here. We're in these apparently solid things. So physicists will tell us it's just a bunch of light particles flying around, but somehow it's contained. And there's this thing called time. And we measure so many things in our life because of these two things, this apparent solid reality around us and what's going on time-wise. Now, am I going to die soon? You know, what am I supposed to do in the meantime? Shall I just quit?
Yeah.
So life is a mystery. Life is an experience, and we signed up for it. And as far as I've ever been able to tell, there's a lot of souls out there that would love to be having this experience. And we're it. We're in it. We're having it. And so don't miss a moment of it.
Yeah.
This is a miracle. This whole thing is a miracle that we're living through here.
I love that. I appreciate that. Chetan, it was so fun to talk to you. If people want to get readings or people want to do your trainings or just check out more, be able to get their chart, where do they find you? Where do they find your site and all this stuff?
If they want a reading, very, very simple, hdreading.com. hdreading.com. They'll be taken right to a page where they can sign up for a reading.
Cool.
Our website is called Human Design for Us All. Human Design, FORUSALL.com. Human Design for Us All. You can go there, you can get a free report. You can join our trainings from there as well.
I was looking at your trainings. I really think I want to do one. It's just so interesting.
What's the holdup? I've been training people since 1997. The training that we offer is second to none. It's brilliant. And people get so much out of it. There's also the books, all on Amazon. There's the Human Design book, the original one, now in 12 languages, bestseller in Russia. There's the Book of Lines, which goes really deep. It's all the codings within your design. And the most recent one, the Book of Destinies, that I co-wrote with my wife and partner. This is all about your life theme. Subtitle, Discover the Life You're Born to Live.
Ooh.
All fun stuff.
So fun. So thank you so much. We'll be checking out your things. You will probably find me in one of your trainings too. The only holdup, I think it was the dates. But as you're saying, we're like measuring all the things and all the time and whatever and blah, blah, blah. So
I've actually, in the last couple of days, we've signed up somebody from Bhutan, and there's another couple of people in America that are signing up to join. So it's a perfect time right now to join the training.
That's amazing. It's always a perfect time for whoever is listening and resonating, right?
Perfect.
So everyone listening, this episode, as we do sometimes, got a little more esoteric than usual. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have questions, you can check out Chetan's site. And I love this stuff. As you've heard me say throughout the episode, it's helped me so much. So hope you found that interesting. Share it up. Use it as a conversation piece with others if you'd like to connect more and learn more about them to understand. So Chetan, thank you again so much for being here. We'll talk to you later.
My pleasure, Elizabeth. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
So like for the longest time, I wasn't comfortable. Like, so when I'm with the analyst people, I just talk about analysts, analyzing data and all that. When I'm with the creative people, I talk about creative. I never mentioned the other part of me until the play happened, because then my coworkers came and watched the play.
And were they like, what the hell?
Yeah. They're always like, wait, you're an analyst and what the heck? Like, how did you? Yeah. And then my actors and the people who were helping me with the play knew I had a full-time job that has nothing to do with the play. So yeah, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm done trying to like hide. I'm interested in all of that, and I'm doing all of that, and I'm okay with it, and it's okay in my standards, and whatever. Leave me alone.
I appreciate that a lot. And when you say leave me alone, did anyone actually bug you about it, or were you in your head thinking that they would?
Yeah, in my head, or sometimes comments like, "Oh, you're doing too much," or "Slow down," or stuff like that, and I would sometimes think about it. I'm like, am I doing too much? Like, okay, yeah, I'm aware when I'm overwhelmed, and I'm aware when I need to like prioritize, but I'm okay. Thank you. Like, I'm not doing too much. I want to do all this stuff, and I'm still okay. Like, I'll let you know when I can't handle it anymore. Yeah.